Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Simply Walk the Talk. I am your host, JoshuaJHolland, and today I am thrilled. I have an exciting new guest on the show. We have another lady boss on the show, an entrepreneur. We have Lisa Zamen on the show, and Lisa, she's actually from New York, NYC, to the wilds of the Essex countryside, and now residing in London. The desire to create art has always been a huge influence in her life, no matter where she has lived. Lisa started her artistic journey as a self-taught portrait artist from the mid-1990s as a hobby. Leaving the world of zookeeping and IT behind, she decided to follow her passion, and art became her new way of life in 2019. Lisa is a traditional artist specializing in charcoal, graphite, colored pencil, and her work features game and movie characters as well as a memorable and family portraits. So, Lisa Zaman, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hello again.
Yeah. So, this is fun. But first of all, if you can't tell, for the listeners, for the viewers, if you can't tell, I enjoy what I do so much. And along the way, throughout this journey of me doing what I do, I've gotten a chance to meet some incredible people just by way of the clients I work with, or various clients wanting to work with me and reaching out, and then from there I connect with their friends and whatnot. And Lisa is one of these people that, as luck would have it, or as unluck would have it, we met throughout this pandemic online. We met through, I guess it was through Instagram. And maybe you can help kind of flesh a story out, but I just recall seeing a bunch of amazing sketches, if you want to call them sketches, or just artwork, fan art, or whatever. I know
you can call it fan art.
Fan art is such a trigger word. We'll talk about that, I guess. But I just remember seeing some amazing work come up on my feed, and I'm like, who is this, and who's doing this? And I even remember saying to my buddy Oscar, I think we were shooting in Budapest, or he was shooting in Budapest, and I was there helping him. And I just remember saying,
tagging along.
I'm like, dude, have you seen this artist's work? And he's like, yeah, dude, it's amazing. And so I think one thing led to another, and we ended up connecting. And you were always so gracious with your reaching out, and you would ask me questions not only about biohacking and things like that, but we even talked about ways to improve your fitness and all these things. But maybe we'll get into all of that, but first and foremost, let's talk about who is Lisa Zamen, and what is your background, and sort of what has led you into sort of being on this show talking with me.
Oh, well, you kind of gave it away saying that I started this way back in the 90s. So that's kind of showing my age a little here. But that's something that I'm incredibly proud of. That's not something that I particularly hide, but I don't also wear it as a, badge of honor. I was born in the UK, but I spent the first 3.5 years of my life in New York City, thanks to my father, who was working in the financial district for a US-based company, and yeah, that's how I started. Came back to the UK with a little American accent after watching Sesame Street over and over. And yeah, brought up in the countryside, really out. We're talking rural here. Like not many bus routes,
Really?
not a lot of anything. Yeah, I'm an only child, so
Uh-oh.
imagination was something that was always uh, quite out there. I kept, my own amusement. My parents were very good at sort of encouraging me artistically to express myself. Yeah, I always remember from a very, very early age just scribbling, drawing anything. But it was always people. It was always people, and it was always people that were very important. I know that children tend to draw their parents, but I was always drawing my grandparents, and I'd like have them all in like little neat rows, and I'd spend a lot of time on a lot of detail. Now that I think about it, even back then, I was always creating. My mother said that I used to dress up a lot. I used to like make costumes out of anything and everything. And I'd want to put on shows. I think all children do that to a point, but I'd be coming out guns blazing saying, you need to be ready at 2 p.m. because I'm going to do a show and you need to all be watching me.
Of
So there's
course.
always been that kind of like uh, showman about me. I studied art at school. I hated it. I was never interested in the subjects that they were that were picked for me. So I just studied, did my went to college, and art never really figured into it. I guess I wanted to be sensible, so I studied business and finance, and off I went, and I fell into a career in IT, um, and it was quite monotonous. It was quite boring, but the social aspect of it I absolutely adored. Um, but after many years, like I think about 11 years in IT, it finally just came to a head, and I was like, I am done. Um, and as you know, life goes on. All those life events that happen. You get married, you have children, and you're like, oh god. I think, yeah, it was around prior to the pandemic. I was thinking, soul searching. What am I going to do? How am I going to occupy myself? Who am I? What am I? All those kind of questions that we all
Hmm.
ask ourselves, and sometimes we never come to any conclusion. But art was always there. It was always a hobby, and I think we were just having a tidy up, and I was like, I'm just going to have a go, have a dabble again. And of course, with social media being so big these
Right.
days,
Right.
I thought I'd tread the water on Instagram. Thanks to a couple of my friends, one who's a huge gamer, introduced me to the Assassin's Creed games, which have been around for a very long time. But this one in particular was based around Greece,
Oh.
in ancient Greece, and I was blown away. That was it. I was obsessed, and I was obsessed with all the characters, and I was obsessed with this just whole game, and it really just fed my imagination, and it fed my soul, and I was like, I need to draw these characters, and that was it. I was drawing all the characters. I was tagging the games company, and it just snowballed. It snowballed. So from it was yeah, it was late 2018, early 2019, where I started really pushing my artwork, especially around the games genre. And that's got some attention from the game studio, Ubisoft, and they would have like, certain art tags where they'd show fan art. There's that word again. They'd show fan art over the weeks or over the months, and I began to feature quite heavily. And I got quite a following, because I don't think there'd been anybody around who was doing full you know, portraits of these characters and bringing them to life. And I loved it, and I loved the interaction with the other fans and people on social media. And it was good. It was good for me. It wasn't a case of bolstering me up or making me feel good. It was just wonderful to have that interaction with others. Um, and so yeah, I just kept on going, kept on going, kept on drawing. And of course, then we went into the pandemic, into 2020, and I thought, I've got a good following going here. Let's extend my capabilities. Let's push it into movies. Let's push it into celebrities and other areas. And I had a captive audience. You know, whilst everybody was in lockdown, everybody was on their phones or on their tabs or on their
Yeah.
laptops, and I utilized it. I
Right.
utilized it to my full percent. I became my own marketing manager, promoter. Um, it was hard, and at one stage I was really concerned I was going to possibly burn out. But
Mhm.
I was pulled back in, decided to create a website, create a shop, all those kind of things that you just kind of hope and dream about. But yeah,
Well,
2 years later, and here we are.
I think that's cool because it's almost like a full circle moment with your IT experience, and also like you said, I mean, being able to like one of the things that you appreciated about your IT work was the sociability, the social interaction component, or just the interactions, in general. And I think that's very admirable because I think the soul searching happened globally when the pandemic hit, right? And a lot of people were just like, wait, okay, so for all my life, I've been doing X, Y, and Z when it comes to work, when it comes to interacting with family, friends, loved ones. And now we're kind of forced to do blah, whatever that blah might be. And I think
Yeah,
people could either make it something amazing or understand that their life has been kind of going in a downward trajectory and you can kind of fix that, and you did.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was already kind of on the art sort of page. I was already there.
Hmm.
I'd made that conscious decision that this is the way that I wanted to go because I loved it so much, and I thought if it ever gets to the point where I'm sick and tired of it, then I need to have a break. I need to just not do it. And I've never had that moment. But for me in the pandemic, there was still that other area, which is where you come in,
Hmm.
um, where everything was kind of not falling apart, but it was neglected. It was completely neglected because,
Which is what
you know,
what part is that?
that's my health and my fitness and just my well-being. Because when you're an artist, I'm so fortunate that I can work from home, but it's a very sedentary job. You sit at your desk, you
Hmm.
draw, and sometimes when you're so focused, you don't move. And you're like, you could sit there all day long, and sometimes you get a bit stressed. You start eating, you start drinking,
Yeah.
not alcohol, but you you're literally not doing enough. Um, and that kind of goes hand in hand with not having any kind of possible physical exercise, not really being able to go out. You know, it drove. For me, lockdown was a big reminder and a stark
Hmm.
reminder that I needed to turn my life around physically.
Right.
Mentally, I was kind of already there, but physically, I was just like, uh, I've always been quite a physical person. I trained not as a not as a professional, but I'm a trained dancer. So for quite a lot of my years, there was a lot of physicality going on. There was a lot of exercise, and then all of a sudden, nothing. Um,
Yeah.
and my body was like, "Yeah, you're not as young as you used to be, and this isn't going to work."
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
you know
got on a treadmill and started
I think
walking.
that's a very fascinating discussion to kind of dive deeper into,
Hmm.
and maybe we can pull up some more things out of that, because what we'll say is that you have, throughout all of this, you've gotten to the point where you ran your first marathon, which is, I think, so amazing. Honestly, like when you were telling me that you were doing it, I was like, oh my goodness, because I recall whenever I did a marathon, and I'm someone that is considered, I guess, extreme, not extreme athlete, but an athlete, high level athlete, and health coach and fitness trainer, and so it should be normal for someone like me to go and run it, but it kicked my ass. I will admit it kicked my ass, and I recall when we first kind of connected, it was mostly just around the portraits and things like that, but then I think you started to ask very poignant questions and very good questions about some of the products that I would promote on my social media outlets,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I get this quite a bit, to be honest. Like I get people asking me in direct messages, or emailing me, or calling me or texting me, and asking me very, very good questions about various products, which is why I started to do this podcast in the first place. Is
mm,
I wanted to be able to have a resource for lots of people to be able to hear this information that I'm giving from my experience, right?
yeah.
But like with you, I recall it was constant. It was, but for me though, it was good, right? Because sometimes I don't get the feedback that I was getting from you. For instance, some people, and I don't think this is a necessarily a bad thing, but it is what it is. I feel like sometimes people reach out to me. One, it takes a lot for them to reach out to me, because I don't know. Maybe it's because they don't think I'm going to respond back, or maybe it's a very loaded questions about various things. But to the people that are listening or watching, I I love helping people, and so, but sometimes when people reach out to me, it's like it falls on deaf ears. It's almost like, okay, I did it. I asked him the question. He gave me a response. Okay, and that's it. Well, okay, whatever happened with checking back in? Of course, I can do that, but I'm doing this with lots of people. So sometimes I don't get any feedback. I don't know if
Mm.
what I said to this person actually helped them, or if it actually hurt them, or if they even tried the protocol that I laid out. And with you, you were almost always like, "Hey, dude, like this stuff is, what you're telling me is good."
You know what? And you're absolutely right, because, like I say, I was already kind of halfway on my journey to kind of like losing the weight that I needed to, and to getting healthier, not just fitter, but healthier. And obviously, because we were in lockdown and there was nowhere for me to really, or anywhere that I really wanted to run, I had a treadmill at home, and so I was pounding that treadmill, and I was going for it, and I was seeing results. But the one thing that I knew that I've had since I was born is that I have flat feet. I is it over? I overpronate.
Mm.
And for me, whilst I was running, and whilst my shoes were in theory supposed to be for those that have flat feet, I was getting shin pain. I was getting arch pain, and I was like, hmm. And I'd seen you obviously promote Vivo Barefoot, and I was like, oh, I like the idea of this, because sort of having seeing you display them, and then going onto the website and having a look myself, and then sort of asking a few questions from you. That's what I kind of wanted to see, and that's why I gave you feedback when I did get my pair, and I was like,
Mm.
okay, um, this feels weird. My feet feel weird. What do I do? And you came back and with some really helpful tips, and I was like, I need to let him know how it went. I think I
Yeah.
need to, because he's given me this suggestion. What if I go off at half mast and it all goes horribly wrong?
Right.
I
Right.
mean, you didn't. You came back with some invaluable like suggestions on, don't run too long, do it like maybe for this amount of time, do it to this beat. And I was like, okay, I'm going to follow this. And I mean, I get that sometimes it won't work for everybody, but it did for me. And I was just like, he needs to know that, because I think whilst you may know your trade incredibly well, sometimes you do need that feedback to go, have I still got it?
Yeah.
Am I still
I
giving the right advice? Because sometimes
yeah.
we need a little bit of a freshen up, or we just need a bit of a reminder that yeah, what we're doing is right, I suppose. And
Well
yeah, you
said.
were doing great. Thanks.
Well said. I think we should let's actually dive into that, because what if the person that's listening or watching or both, um, maybe can relate to what you were dealing with, because I do get that quite a bit. I do get a lot of people coming to me talking about flat-footedness or over pronation, over supination, and I get probably more than anything because I guess I've been an ambassador for Vivo Barefoot for the longest. I mean, it's been over a
Mm,
decade. I probably get more questions about footwear than I do anything, and so I want to touch on that a little bit, and we can talk about what I explained to you, and then what you carried out, and then we can
sure.
kind of go on from there, because obviously we're talking about you and your work and things like this, but I just think we I don't want to gloss over that, because there might be people saying, oh well, what did he tell her and what did she do, and so
That's
anytime
important.
someone comes to me with suggestions or with questions about barefoot style running, there's a lot of sort of misinformation out there. One, people think that you have to actually be barefoot when you go for your runs, and that's not necessarily the case. Although it can highlight a lot of issues throughout the body. There's things that you will do as a person when you're actually barefoot that you wouldn't do when you have shoes on. So, and that's shoes of any kind.
Yeah.
Um, Also, I think there's there's a lot of misinformation about this idea of being flat-footed. And when people come to me and they say, well, I'm flat-footed or I've been flat-footed, one of the things that I always suggest is that, first of all, unless a person has a bona fide hardware issue, as in there's some kind of uh, bone misplaced, or you had some kind of major injury to your feet, we're all sort of born with amazing capabilities. And when we don't utilize those capabilities, then we develop these situations. So you developed flat-footedness, but you are not flat-footed. Okay, so this is kind of
Yeah.
what,
No.
right. This is something
Yeah.
that I like to explain to people,
Mm,
and then I always ask people to do a simple test. Okay. And so, and anybody who knows me and I've gone through this, they can vouch for me because I do this almost every single time. But if you take a flat footed person and you ask them to go against a wall into a wall sit position. And so if you're listening to this right now or watching this, please feel free to go
go
and do
do.
it. Maybe
Go do it.
I'll show some videos. I'll add a video in on this. But if you go to the wall and you put your feet, your heels at the base of the wall, and you step out 3 feet, so approximately 3 feet, like 2.5 feet to 3 feet distance away, and you measure that by your own feet. So if you have small feet, then it'll be a shorter distance. If you have large feet like myself, it'll be a longer distance. Okay, so you measure 3 steps out from the base of the wall. Then you slide down the wall into a chair sitting position with your feet together, and then you open your knees. Okay, so your feet are together, physically together, touching. Okay, so this is one thing that a lot of people don't do. And the reason for this is because I want to make sure that, like, when I used to teach a wall sit to people, I used to always have to say, okay, well, no, straighten your feet up, do this, do that. But I learned that the cue of putting your feet together automatically tells me that your feet are straight. Okay. So I say feet together, so your feet are straight. A lot of times people notice that if they have bunions, they
Mm-hmm.
can't even get their toes together. Okay, but that's another issue, right? So feet together, right? And then knees open. When you do that, if you look down at a person who considers themselves to be flat-footed, you'll notice that you create a beautiful arch.
Arch.
Okay, yeah. How would you say it? Arc,
Arch.
arc, arch. Okay,
Arch.
yeah. There you go. There you go.
Arch.
Yeah. So you will develop a very beautiful arch in a system that people have been told that all their lives is that you have a flat foot, so you just accept that and then you kind of go with it, and now you're being forced to wear orthotics and you're being forced to do all these things. And I say, why go and do the orthotics or do all these other things when you can simply fix it yourself? because that should tell me, it should tell you that it's the act of putting yourself in the proper position that gives you the arch that you're looking for, right? So I think that's one thing that we may have talked about is putting yourself in the proper position to understand
Mm,
how to strengthen your body to get yourself out of being flat-footed.
mm.
Then from there, doing different foot exercises, like just allowing the feet to be more open. These are things you can do without purchasing a pair of shoes. You can curl your toes into the floor, into a mat. You can pick things up with your feet, and you can stretch your feet. And again, I'll show some videos of this, at a later date probably, and I'll link to it on this episode. But then you can start to look at shoes, right? So if you stay as barefoot as possible throughout your lifestyle, when you're at
Mm-hmm.
home, we shouldn't be wearing shoes. Like, why are we wearing shoes when we're inside? I mean, we don't have any nails or glass or rocks to tread through, right? To walk through. So we really
Mm.
shouldn't be constricting our
Oh,
feet while we're indoors. And then when you go outside, if you are going to transition to barefoot shoes,
your
then we need
your
to
video's gone.
ease. My video's gone.
Hmm.
No, it's here. It's here.
Oh,
We're
I can't see
recording
you.
locally. Oh, okay. We're recording locally on both sides, but
That's okay.
yeah, it is still here though. Um,
That's all right.
so hopefully it comes back for you, but yeah, I'm definitely still
That's all right.
recording. I'm just looking at it now. So then when you go outside and you want to learn how to sort of be more barefoot, then you would want to transition slowly. So if you've gone from always being in a thick padded shoe and a constricted
Mm.
shoe, then you don't want to immediately just jump into wearing regular shoes. So I remember the advice I gave you was, okay, when you get your Vivos, please do not go out and just try to run a mile or 10 miles or whatever. Like, start by walking in them for a period of time and then pick up that pace and maybe go a little bit longer each time. And then next thing you know, you'll be ready. Your feet will strengthen, be stronger to be able to handle the barefoot, because it's a workout for the feet, right?
I remember that first. You were like, just go for a walk, maybe a mile, just walk, and it was the strangest sensation. I couldn't describe it. It was like being barefoot, but not. That sounds it's such a cliche to say, but yeah, just feeling your legs at work, feeling everything up from the knees and the legs. It's just, yeah, it's quite an insane feeling to feel that your feet are actually at work, not
Right.
kind of squeezed and kind of pressured where the ball of your foot is working more or the heel's working more, or you've got one of those very fake forced arches in your shoe to keep to keep this arch
Right. Right.
natural, and it's not natural at all. Not natural at all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I will definitely admit that there are people out there, a small percentage of people,
Yeah,
however, people that do need to have various foot orthotics, and podiatrists are
I
important.
yeah, I mean, just to interject there, my mother sent me to a podiatrist. They had, I think, from the age of 7 to 14, I had like what we call like a proper like arch sole into my shoes, and eventually, when the podiatrist was like, I don't actually think this is what you know what the podiatrist, I think, from the age of about 8 was like, send her to dance. Send her to dance. I remember doing ballet and him saying to me,
Ooh.
get her to dance, and that for me, the insoles were gone because I was studying ballet, and because I had to naturally pull, I mean, I remember being in like first position and just, feet together like that, and feeling pulling my feet back and using my legs and using the rest of my
Yes.
body to keep my posture. And even now, whilst I was, when you get to your 20s and you're stuffing your feet into the thinnest, tiniest shoes ever and squashing your feet, my whilst that, I might have squeezed all my toes together, my posture and keeping my feet sort of as unrolled back as possible was something that I always kind of counted. but yeah, like having those barefoot and seeing over what the space of 6 months, seeing my feet naturally relax and not look so squashed and not look so, seeing and feeling that balance and feeling less pain, like
Well,
walking 7 to 10 miles in my Vivos and just
right.
not feeling any any pain whatsoever and thinking, oh, we're doing good.
I have to say kudos to your podiatrist because although it's a male, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Although he put you in orthotics in the beginning, which I'm not saying it's inherently a problem, but it's like we do have to figure out like at what point does having arch support actually become a negative, right? Like when we
I
have arch support, the problem is that the body will start to depend on the actual arch and or the arch support. And I always like to use the analogy, if anyone that is listening to this or watching this right now, if you can imagine the structure of an arch anywhere in the world, if you can just visualize what that looks like, or you could recall, some of the most beautiful arches you've ever seen, chances are, chances are, no one has ever seen a support structure within that arch. Nowhere in history. And the reason is because the arch itself is a non-weight bearing surface and it's strongest when it does not have anything impeding the structure of that arch. And our foot is very similar, right? The arch of our foot is very similar. Now, the difference between our arch and those structural arches, found in history is that it has a spring component to it. So it's designed to be able to sort of to coil and recoil so that it can give us more power because it's a very powerful
Mhm.
structure. And in fact, the podiatrist asking you to then go and do ballet, the first thing I thought was amazing because there's a few activities or sports in the world that require people to be more barefoot. And ballet is one of them. Gymnastics is one of them. Martial arts is one of them. There's a few things out there like track and field. If you actually think of track and field and ballet, I think the only downside to both of those is that the toe box is a little constricted, so the toes are
Mhm.
a little smushed together. But they've got the flat component down, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when you told me that he told you to go do ballet, I thought, oh, there you go. That's a way of telling someone to go and strengthen their feet.
Yeah.
So does a
Mm.
person need to do ballet to strengthen their feet? Not necessarily, but you could, or just try to be as barefoot as possible. And then just like with exercise, you don't start off doing a hero wad in CrossFit when you first go to a CrossFit wad or CrossFit gym. You start
No.
off and you do what's called green ramping or on ramping. You just ease into it. And then of course we must say you did not run the marathon in barefoot shoes.
No,
I didn't either.
no, no. I did not. I chose my footwear well. Um, uh, I made sure that that my feet were not squashed into. I think I try and apply the rule that my trainers or my sneakers or my running shoes should be at least half a size bigger than my actual shoe size anyway, because I need to be able to have my feet splayed out and
Yeah,
have room to move, because I don't think I would have been able to do that 26.2 miles. uh,
right, right, right.
and even then, I was in contact with you
Yep,
about an hour afterwards going, right, what do I need to do now? What is my cool
exactly,
down?
exactly. But I must
Am
say,
I allowed to eat my body weight in biscuits now? Can I? Is that okay?
well, listen, I must say you handled it well, and either you were very, you were acting very well, or you just actually did handle it well. I was impressed. I was impressed.
I had an amazing friend who was FaceTiming me literally every hour on the hour, just to check in to see how I was doing. I had other friends like buzzing me, seeing how just look, people checking. I did a couple of Insta lives where I was just like, I am running, I am walking, I don't know who's there. Hello, I've gone mad, you know. And by the end of it, when I did cross the line, I did go live again, and I was just like, I was so emotional. I was crying. I was in a bit of a mess. I was like,
Oh,
oh, I've done it, and I kept thinking to myself, don't sit down, don't lie down. Because if I lie down, I will never get up. But I've just got to show because I am going to toot my own horn here. I don't know if I can
please do.
grab it. Let's have a look. There you go. There is
Yay!
My London Marathon medal.
Congrats. Congrats again. Honestly,
Oh my
congrats.
goodness.
And you know what's really cool is like that's that social component that you talked about in terms of social media, right? And I think like that was almost as if you had your running partner with you, like this idea of social media. And I think it's really powerful because when I ran it, I ran the New York City Marathon in 2017, and I ran it because I wanted to support one of my clients. And I told him, you know, if he ran it, like I would run it with him if he wanted me to. And he was like, of course, I would love for you to. And I did. And that was really amazing. And I applaud those who just kind of run it themselves for the first time. And that's basically what you did, but you also had the
Yeah, I
support
mean,
structure.
didn't really think about it. I got my place, and whilst yeah, I could have run for charity and I could have raised some money, and maybe, you know, I've entered the ballot for 2022, and if I get in, I might run for charity. But for me, it's kind of been one of those things that has been on the bucket list because usually the London Marathon is always around my birthday usually, and I'd always be like, oh, I'd love to run that on my birthday. Um, and then just being spurred on, just wanting to get fit and entering, and then getting a place. I was just like, I need to do this for me. It might be the stupidest thing that I ever do, but I will do it. And I think by the 21st mile, after taking quite a few heavy painkillers, just to keep me going, yeah, I was not feeling that much pain, and I was just like, this is it. We are almost home. I've got this. And it wasn't the best time, but you know what? I don't care.
Right.
It's not the time, it's crossing the line, as a friend said.
Well
So
said. Well
yeah.
said. Okay. Well, this has been a very fascinating rabbit hole, and I'm sure we can go down many rabbit holes because that's one thing I have
That's
noticed
what
with you
happens
is
with us.
yes, exactly. We have these profound conversations, and that kind of leads me to finally meeting you because we have chatted for I don't know, like what has it been, 6 months?
June, yeah, it's June.
Yeah,
May, June.
yeah. So we've
Round
been
that time.
chatting for what feels like a lot longer, just
A lot
because I think
longer.
the content and the extent at which we've been having conversations has it just feels like I've known you for such a long time. But I actually
Yeah,
just
we were
met you.
lucky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just met for the first time. What was it? A week ago?
Last
Two?
week.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
last
last week.
week.
Yeah, so you finally made a trip back to New York. And so you reminded me that you did once live here, and let's talk about that. Let's talk about like not only just like us meeting for the first time, but what was your experience like to be back in New York?
Oh, well, I said to you at the day that I came back up, I came to visit you. It had been it was an emotional day. In fact, this whole trip had been, I knew would be incredibly um emotional. Some people may have thought it was absolutely crazy to travel during a pandemic, especially with a new variant uh, buzzing around. But I'd set my mind on it, and yeah, I knew I wanted to come back, and the time was right. And I just felt, I can't really explain it. It was just something that I needed to do.
Hmm.
Um, and like I said to you, I haven't been back since 2005, 2006 to New York. So, and I just wanted to experience it on my own. I wanted to come back and just have that kind of pilgrimage um, back to somewhere that I felt incredibly close to. And I know that my parents absolutely fell in love with New York, even though it was the late 70s. But yeah, and it was wonderful from the moment that I touched down. It felt like home from home, and I didn't expect it to feel like that. I touched down, and from the moment I stepped onto the sidewalk, it, I felt at ease. It was just amazing. And then, to catch up with you straight away. And I said to you, this trip I'm going to say yes to everything. I'm just going to do everything that I possibly can. And it has been absolutely incredible, from visiting our old apartment. It's still standing there. To just sort of taking walks around areas where I remember my mum taking me as a child, such as sort of Central Park Zoo, and seeing the musical clock got set off. I mean, the poor tourists must have thought I was crazy, because there's this blonde woman sobbing her heart out, like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, just great. But I found it incredibly cathartic. I found it incredibly uplifting, and just being able to do and being fortunate enough to be able to do my own thing while whilst out and about. It was absolutely great, and I think it just cemented to me, moving forward, what I want to do. We're so keen to place limits on ourselves as to what we can and can't do. And I sometimes, and I think that's inherently comes from fear. I think we're all, well, not all of us, not you, but, a lot of us are ruled by fear.
Especially
Just scared
now.
of taking that chance. Yeah, and especially, personally afraid of upsetting people, or afraid of making mistakes. And I think I mean, at my age, I probably just don't care anymore. But yeah, I digress. It was coming here. Sorry, coming to New York was just like home from home. It was amazing. It was a great experience. It was basically just confirmed to me that I would definitely be going back. You can't get rid of me that easily.
Yeah.
But, but yeah, it was strange. I was like, I felt like a native. I maybe just felt so at ease that I just kind of fell into a little routine while I was here, while I was there, and it was great. It was wonderful. I got to meet some amazing people,
Yeah.
including yourself.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, it was a good opportunity, and I'm so glad that I took it.
I am too. I am as well, and I think we should definitely move into some of the things that you did, because when I met you, I thought it was amazing. I got a chance to kind of get to know you on a deeper level. We had some amazing gluten free pizza together, and it's actually at one of my favorite places here in all of New York. It's a place called
Mm.
Soto Casa, and they are not a sponsor of this show, but I would gladly say to anyone,
I
if you
would,
want to, yeah, if you want a good,
I'd be like,
amazing pizza, whether it's gluten free or not, check out Soto Casa here in New York. It's amazing. Um, but that was really amazing, because I got a chance to kind of see beyond what we typically see when you meet someone from social media, right? Because a lot of times we display our best, or what we perceive to be our best, when it comes to social media. But then when you truly get to know someone, you get a chance to kind of know the real side of the person. And that's what I appreciated the most in meeting you.
I mean, like I say, I'm not that I'm ultra guarded on social media, but I feel that, it's my art that's the page, not me. So I'm hesitant to want to discuss uh anything private. Obviously, I want people to get to know me on a certain level. Um, but at the same time, I don't want to have that over familiarity with people, nor do I necessarily want to come back. It's a very hard, and you'll know this. It's a very hard balance
Yeah.
to get. Uh, I mean, I would consider myself incredibly personable, incredibly loquacious, incredibly open and welcoming. And I would hope that that is what people get when they engage with me on social media. But obviously as a person, when you do slide into the DMs, you want to come across as your well, you want to come across as your most you want to come across as your genuine self. And obviously, Pete, when you're corresponding together, you want to be polite, you want to be courteous, and then all of a sudden, that falls, and I'm being cheeky, or just there's only so far it can go before the mask that you want to portray drops a little or slips. And if you're being genuine and you're being sincere, then there's not going to be too much of a change, I would hope.
True.
Obviously, it when you're not being so honest, that's when things kind of slip up. So, I mean,
Awesome.
I had no worries or any qualms about, you know, who you were or who I was. I figured, I was just like, well, this just could go horribly wrong, or we could get on like a house on fire, and I pretty much figured it was the latter. But I mean, that takes confidence. A lot of people are very nervous online, or they're incredibly boisterous and a little bit over the top online, and then when you meet them, it's a facade. It's not the same. So where you do sort of, you're a little bit wary. It's a little bit of trepidation. Like, oh, how polite should I be? Oh God, courteous. And but as you discovered as soon as we met, that was it. It was just like we're
Yeah.
just going for it.
It was really good. It was really good. And I think that leads me to sort of some of the things that stood out to me, and what
Oh
I
God.
noticed when we actually met in person, but then some of the things that I saw you doing while you were here, because I remember you had mentioned you were going to do some art drops, and you were going to, and I
Yeah.
didn't know what the hell that meant or what that even looked like.
What's she
But when you
talking
explained it,
about?
well, yeah, but you explained it to me in a way that I thought, oh, that's interesting, that's cool, okay, that could work. But then I saw on social media, and again, it was almost like back to the inside the matrix, right? Where I saw on social media what you were telling me. So it was kind of like this moment of being on the outside of the matrix, looking in, but then being in the matrix and seeing it come to fruition. And I was like, whoa. And I remember messaging you like, this is incredible. So let's talk about that, because I think that'll then lead to some of the things that you're going to be promoting very soon, some of the things that are coming out. I'll even show the your website at some point. While we're talking, we can share that. But let's talk about like the art drops. Let's talk about some of the things that you were promoting, some of the things you did, and maybe even some of the feedback you got from those art drops. Let's talk about that.
Um, excuse me.
You got the Rona.
Another yeah. No, I've had so many PCR tests. Honestly, it's ridiculous. I'm COVID free. Thank you very much.
Good, 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 good.
A friend of mine just we had a meeting of minds, and it was just somebody suggested saying, hey, have you heard about like kind of doing like an art drop, or maybe like maybe taking a print and like leaving it somewhere like well known in New York. And I was like, that little light bulb came on. And I, as an artist, I love drawing. I love people that want to buy my work, be it an original or be it a print. I also kind of like giving it away sometimes, just because you know, I like people to have, if they like my work, obviously I told you before, I told you this anyway, I'm like the worst businesswoman ever. But
Or
I
are
want,
you?
I want people, I'm getting, no, I'm getting better now. It's all a facade. I'm just really cunning, really. But okay. we're going to do this. So I selected some prints, kind of random, but not. I was just like, I think we had two from the Mandalorian himself, and Grogu. I had Oscar as the Duke from Dune, keeping it topical, keeping it relevant for the moment. And then I had a color drawing of Cleopatra, and it's actually the Cleopatra from one of the Assassin's Creed games. But it's such an iconic look. I was like, yeah, you know what? Let's take these. I bagged them up. I had put my own a little bit of branding on there, and then I had a sticker saying, "If you love me, take me." And then I had all my social media information on it, and basically just said, if you find, the rule was, if you find it, take it, tag me if you want, it's all yours. And so, armed with a roll of Scotch tape, I made my and I seriously, there was some hilarious. There were some looks. I was like, I could get in serious trouble. Am I going to get like in trouble for flyers? But armed with my roll of Scotch tape and a bag full of prints, I headed over the Brooklyn Bridge. And that was the first one that I left, was leaving Cleopatra. And over the Brooklyn Bridge. And as I went, I stuck them on benches. I stuck them on the bridge itself. Made the long walk across. Had a wander around, and then I came back, and they'd all gone. And it was the one lady that I spied was staring at the last print of Oscar, kind of just staring there, looking at it. And I'm like, I was hiding, kind of like, can I take a sneaky picture of her? Is she going to take it? Is she going to take it? And she's like, I could see her taking a photo, and I was like, take it. And I started like putting it in her bag, and yeah, it was amazing. It was wonderful. And then I did a secondary one through Central Park, and then on the final day, heading around Brooklyn, just leaving them outside the Barclays Centre, like, go, be free. While the security guards were like, do we need to arrest her? We need to just like, you're littering, lady, move along, but what was great was then to sort of like see responses on social media. Some people just wanted to just say thank you. They didn't necessarily want to take a picture, or they didn't have social media. So I received quite a few like little messages on like Facebook or Instagram saying thank you so much. I will treasure this. It's wonderful. Others were a little bit more like, woohoo, look what I got.
Right.
And yeah, so the feedback I got, we have them going to Prince going to Puerto Rico, Singapore, India, Texas, LA.
Wow.
Yeah. Because obviously I was hitting tourist spots as well. So
Of course.
it wasn't necessarily I did get someone from Queens picked one up from the bar while hanging around the Barclays Centre. So that was cool. We had a native picking one up, but it was a great experience. I would definitely do it again. I might even do one in London at some point, maybe in the new year. But it was a good way of doing a little bit of promotion. Wasn't expecting a mass of followers, but it was just sort of good to just give something back.
Yeah.
Because like I say, not everybody can afford art. Sometimes people it's just different, and sometimes it's great when they don't actually know who I am.
Right.
Hi, who are you? Oh, you draw. Yeah, hi, have a print. So that was one of the things that I did. It was fabulous.
I just
Yeah.
shared that on this episode. I don't know if you could see that or not. Are you
I
able
did.
to
I
still?
did. Yeah, I
Oh,
saw a
okay,
little.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the video is working again. But so I now want to kind of use that to talk about your website and talk about this event that you have coming up, and let's get into that, talking about promotion and branding and whatnot. So I'm gonna share the website, and why don't you just walk us through this? So everyone listening or watching, we're gonna go to Lisa Zaman Art So that's LISAZ or ZAMANART.com. Lisa Zamen Art. So I'm gonna share that right now. If you're watching, and if you're not watching, shame on you. No. If you're not watching, just bear with us as I'll try to explain as much as I can so that you can understand. So one of the first things I see is your logo, which I think is you must have created that yourself, or you worked with someone, right?
I did. I just wanted something really simple. I and the one thing I didn't want, I didn't want anything to have any kind of art. Like you see a lot of artists with paintbrushes and like palettes, and I was like, yeah, I don't want that. I
Right.
just wanted something that would be very, very easy to just remember, like just the little golden dots and my name. That's all you need. It's just, it may change at some point, but I just wanted something that would look good on a business card.
Right, right, and I love the color gold. I
Oh,
think gold it's beautiful.
and
And
oh, go on.
no, I was gonna say, and then I mean, right away, I see this welcome to Lisa Zamen Art, and I can't help but notice my friend on a portrait here, and it's
That's
beautiful.
appearing everywhere at the moment. There's the original at the moment, just there, framed and ready to go. One of them, anyway.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. So for those listening, this is my buddy Oscar with his. It's like you kind of know. Well, you know it's Oscar if you know Oscar. You know it's amazing hair, and I have to say you did a really good job in and correctly identifying the way the hair looks because Oscar's quite known for his hair and his beard, especially in Dune. But then it's
It's a
also
talking point, right? It's a talking
it's
point.
it's also important to show that like you have his hands are prominently displayed in this, and I think that's for a very good reason, right? So as I
It
scroll
is.
down, I see we've got what's new. So we've got the art giveaway, the NYC edition. I love that. So that's
Mm-hmm.
updated. We've got the London Marathon, which we talked about, the Hyperspace Dimension podcast, the Sketchbook project, so many things on the website. So if you are only listening to this, please go and check out Lisa's website. But let's talk about this sort of hands project. Yeah, I'll just quickly. How do I click on this? I don't know if I can click on this, but the art giveaway, I think that was awesome. But let's talk about
If you
the.
go up, I think if you go up to the main part of the main menu, it says
Mhm.
exhibition at the top, and you can just click on there.
Okay,
And it'll be
Exhibitionist
there.
2022.
Ah.
Okay, so there's Lisa Zaman, and we've got
It's just
and
scrolling.
there you go. Yeah, so coming in January 22.
Coming.
Dun, 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 dun. And then this is what I was talking about in terms of the hand over your emotions. I think let's talk about that because I think this is a really cool project that
Thank
you're working
you.
on.
Yeah. So rewind back to. I'm terrible with dates. Once I've passed them, I kind of forget. I think it was September, October time. Um, I was approached by Brick Lane Gallery in London, in East London, as to whether I would like to take part in their portraiture exhibition, which is taking place in January 2022. Um, and I was like, oh my goodness, first gallery. So I went and, rather than just saying yes immediately, I decided to check out the gallery, just have a look at the feel of it. It's always something that I've wanted to do. Considering that I'm a traditional artist and not a digital artist, I think there is that difference. Whereas just seeing your work on a wall, that kind of physical, seeing it physically is just something I've always admired. I always love going to galleries, especially portrait galleries, and seeing other people's work in all different types of mediums, in all different types of uh, what's the word? All different types of expression, and I felt that I would that I would do well. Having said that, the Brick Lane Gallery had literally only seen my work from Instagram, which, as we've discussed, that word again, predominantly fan art, and I just felt that it was not necessarily the place to show that kind of work at a gallery. And
Mm.
I'd already had in mind, I'd already been working on some other work that hadn't gone online. Um, and it came about because I wanted to practice drawing hands. Um, that's pretty much how it came about. Originally, at the beginning of my, like, say, career in 2019, I couldn't draw hair to save my life. It was terrible. And I'll freely admit it. So I just went on YouTube, watched a few tutorials, and learned how to draw hair properly. And I think I've got that down now. I think I'm pretty much okay with hair, especially beards. And so, you move on and you practice something else. And again, because with portraits, a lot of the time, hands are used. And I realized I can't draw hands. I remember,
Mm.
I think it was a portrait of Tom Holland, and it was all looking so amazing, and then it looked like sausages holding his face, and I was like, this, yeah, we're lacking here, we're lacking. So, armed with armed with a ton of reference shots, I went to work, and I think prior to the gallery, I had 10 portraits kind of ready to go, but now there are 14 in total. And yeah, they are all portraits, um, with faces concealed with fingers. And I think uh, it wasn't just it stopped becoming just a practice, and it became more me searching for images um that kind of challenged me, but also challenged those who were going to look at those pictures, because obviously uh for for the photographer taking those photos of Oscar, or for those that were screen captured, in that moment, you're just doing what you're told, or you're just acting out a scene. But for those that aren't either necessarily familiar with it, will read something completely different
Right.
into it, and it's the hint of an eye, or the hint of a smile, or just it, when the hands are masking, there's so much to discuss, and so much to sort of come away from and think about, and that's exactly what I wanted to do with these portraits.
I would
Yeah.
love for you to explain how you came up with the title for it, because I think the title is spot on, perfect. It's perfect, right? Like, hand over your emotions. It's a double entendre, right? And it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it has a double meaning or triple meaning, or however you look at it. But that's
Mm,
what's really cool. And when you told me how you came up with that, or even why you came up with that, I was
yeah.
fascinated. So let's explain that.
Oh.
I think you should. Why not?
Yeah, no, I know, but because I don't want. I'd love for it to sound so clever and so insightful. Um,
It is. It is. It is. Which is why I
but
think.
it just came to me. It just came to me because, like you say, it has that double meaning. You've got your hand over what is probably, this is how we emote.
Right.
Your body language can do many things, but your face, unless you've had a lot of work done, you've had a lot of fillers or a lot of Botox, this thing does not lie, and it doesn't matter how you hide it, you can still be seen. So for me, whilst the hands are there, the emotion still seeps through. And again, it's almost like handing over your emotions.
Right. Right.
Show us what you got. Show us what's there, and also for the person looking at it. Some of them are actually quite. Some of them are. So I think there was one that you saw, and I think you were. I think it was the. I can't tell. We can't discuss it, but it was one of the. It was one of. It was one of your buddy. Um, with
Mm-hmm.
quite a surprised look, and you. I remember you laughing, and I was like, "Yes," because that's exactly the what we were aiming for here. And I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
when the shot was done, it was exactly the same. And I was just like, I don't want people to sort of, I wanted to have a collection where people would go, oh, oh, I'm not sure about that one, or maybe a bit of discomfort, maybe a bit of sadness, but then maybe a bit of a giggle or a bit of a, oh,
Right,
you know,
right,
you know.
right.
I want people to sort of look at the 14 portraits and go, whoa, okay, we've got a gallery full of different emotions here. And I could go on. I probably could. I could probably maybe do part two, but not at the moment. But yeah, it was exciting. It was a good way to do it. And obviously I split it up because it's half of the portraits are Oscar, and the other half are Pedro Pascal. So
Pedro. Yeah.
and it's quite interesting when you look at, like, I was looking at reference shots and looking at reference videos, um, just how amazing the expressions you can get from both, so completely different. And that was just wonderful. I was like, yeah, this is good. We've got a good bunch. We've got a good bunch going on here.
Well
So
done.
yeah, and then I had to name every single portrait as well. So that was an interesting one. Just like
Right.
racking my brain, like thinking, yeah, for each title card, what are we going to call it? But you guys will find out soon.
Right. Well, I look forward to that, and please keep us posted. And I'm sure
Yeah,
once we get this out, and you
yeah,
start putting that out there, and at the end of this episode, we'll obviously give you an opportunity to allow people to find out more about you and where they
mm,
can continue following you.
yeah.
But that another thing that I think is also important to discuss is like um, every once in a while I'll hop into one of your lives, like your Instagram lives, or I'd
Yeah.
like to watch some of your videos, and let's talk about what to expect from that, because I think people have a very and again we discussed what we put forward is what people kind of see, right? So sometimes when a person comes to me and says, oh, Josh, well, you're only a fitness trainer, or you're only a biohacker, or you're only this and that, I don't get upset, but I kind of think like, oh, okay, how am I presenting myself, right? And so what I've started to do as of late, in the last couple of years, is really put out what I want people to receive, and so with you, I know we've touched on this a couple of times, but what is sort of what is your feeling on this word around fan art, and how do you want to work through that? Like, because you explained it to me, and I thought, very interesting. It's very similar to people thinking that I'm only a fitness trainer and I only focus on exercise, or I'm only a health coach and I only focus on this. Like, there's obviously so much more to what I do, so much more to what you do. But what is the hang up there?
Snobbery. The art world can be incredibly snobby.
Mm-hmm.
um and I think art is for everybody. I don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Fan art is what got me to where I am, and it brings people together. I mean, people want to, people, we live in an age where movies and TV and games, they're important to people. And when you don't necessarily have great role models in real life, for some, those characters in TV and movie are people's role models, whether they're realistic or not. So just kind of bringing that to people, characters that mean so much to others. I get a lot of feedback from the Star Wars uh, fan art, because I guess it's generational, and it goes across the board, and people love it still. But for
Yeah.
me, I mean, I don't mind people using it or tagging it as fan art, because it is for the fans. yes, I'm doing it for myself, but I'm also doing it for the fans. So, I don't dismiss it. I use that tag, I use that hashtag, I wear it proudly. Do I want to be known as a fan artist for the rest of my life? Probably not. I don't think I possibly am, but
Right.
I think it can be dangerous when you're churning out an awful lot of work, especially not necessarily as a digital artist, but as a traditional artist. Um, when you're as a digital artist, you're literally every day doing like fan art, and you're literally on it as soon as a TV show comes out. Then you're always doing the same kind of work. But I mean, to touch on this, I've done, as you pointed out when you were looking at the creative brief that I did for the gallery. Um, I've done. I'm on my third sketchbook now for the Brooklyn Art Library, and that's completely out of my comfort zone. I draw completely random things, and it's got nothing to do with fan art, and I love it. And it's just a way of me showing other skills, and other ways of drawing that I like. I've met some amazing people online. I've been able to do some really great collaboration work, which has turned into more like concept art, which I absolutely adore. Okay, we're still bringing the fan art element in, but at the same time, it's changing it up a little, and it's putting my own spin on characters that I adore. Um, I don't like to be. I don't ever think I've ever really given myself a label apart from the fact that I'm an artist. My I'd like to think that my interests are varied. I'm a huge cinephile. I adore music. I'm very influenced by soundtracks when I'm working. It's that whole kind of I almost like live my life within a soundtrack and within kind of like a screenplay of when I'm working, and that might sound completely insane, but it's just like this envelopment of everything that makes me creative.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, went off
No,
on
no,
a real tangent there. But yeah, I
it's
mean,
perfect.
I like to be able to do things. Like I say, anything creative, anything kind of dance, music, singing. I'm like, I'm multitasking, multifaceted.
Yeah.
I like to try a bit of everything, and if a jack of all trades, not necessarily a master of none, but I'll give it a good go. Give it a go.
So that
Um,
basically means people can come to you because I guess they have, right? And I know
yeah,
you've talked with me about this, but they can come to you and do what's called, I think you call it a commission, right? Or
yeah, commissions. Yep, 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 yep.
so
I mean, people come to me, and it's usually funny enough. When people want artwork, they come to me, and a lot of the time it's actually memorial uh, for pictures that they want. And that's not necessarily a maudling thing. It's not a sad thing. For me, and most of the time, it's a celebration. People have lost a loved one, and want to sort of. A photograph isn't enough. They want something a little bit bigger scale. They want something that maybe draws out the character, the personality of that person, and I find that a true honor that somebody trusts me enough to get somebody's likeness, and somebody that they care deeply about. Uh, so I've had quite a lot of when people tend to come to me. A lot of them have been personal, which is great. But
there we
sorry,
go.
if I just
It's okay.
dropped, if I just let's have a look there. What's going on? Um, but excuse me. There we go. But yeah, I mean, I've had some strange requests as well. A lot of people see certain images or certain people, and they want, where this is going.
Yeah.
they want certain people drawn. That's fine. And then you get those that are a little out there. I've had some more daring requests. We've had a few people ask about whether I would draw real life like nudes. I had one query which went downhill incredibly fast. I thought at first it was like an MTV, it was like an MTV prank, but it turns out the person was serious. I got a DM. A lady wanted to get a birthday present for her brother. Yeah, this is already alarm bells should have been ringing at this point. She wanted a drawing of her brother who had become a nude artist, a nude model. I said that's fine. I've got no problem. We can do a body. That's fine. Then a few days later, it was, is it okay full frontal? Again, going back and forth, not a problem. Then then the crunch time came, and the words that I knew I was going to see on the page were, "Do you mind if he's erect?"
I'm
a
his
grown
sister. His sister is asking about.
Apparently, yeah. And at that point, I was like, "Am I just being incredibly slow, or is this, But I was starting to not feel uncomfortable, but I was starting to feel like this is not okay. I could do this, but this is not okay. And I was like, look, I have no problem drawing an erect penis. That this is not. I'm not going to balk at this. However, the way that you've explained it to me in the setup, I'm not feeling entirely confident. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. She was like, I can send you pictures. I was like, please don't. And I remember being in the kitchen and being sat surrounded by others, and my phone going to Instagram like Zoom, and she was basically saying, I'll video you, I'll call you now, we'll do it now if you want to do like a live. And I was like, no, we're good. And I've never hit call so quickly in my life.
In call.
Yeah,
in call block.
I wish in some ways I had answered. I will never know. I'm slightly upset now, but we've had some. Yeah, that was probably one of the funniest. And I did wonder how I got myself into that situation, but I laugh at it. I laugh at it now. Yeah, we've had a few like people just testing the water. I'm like, really.
Right.
No.
Yeah, I guess that's probably the downside to it, but at the same time, I guess it does keep your work and your career interesting, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, that's a funny story, and like you, like I maybe I would have like hit answer just to see what the hell is going on the other side, but you probably know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Incest
mind
art.
boggles, and let's just leave it there.
Yeah.
I don't want that image to be burnt into my retinas for the rest of my life.
Right. Yeah, it is such an amazing conversation, and I think people can tell by now it's very easy for us to communicate. But I want to do something really special right now, and again, this is going to be for anyone that is actually watching this. Again, this is the benefit of watching these podcasts now instead of only listening. But I'm going to show you something that Lisa did very special for me. So here we have it. We got this nice big package, and inside this package is another nice big package.
I don't scrimp on my packaging when I send out these portraits. See, it's good.
Very nicely labeled, I must say. Very good. Okay, and then here's the goods, everybody. So I know the microphone's in the way. Maybe I'll take the microphone out of the way, but here it goes. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
It's you.
It's me. It is I. So Lisa was very gracious in, taking the time to try to, to do what I believe is very beautiful and amazing. And I'm honored that you would even put a pencil to paper to create this art. And for those that are watching or even listening, we'll show a time lapse in which she created that, because I can only imagine. But that was really touching and really special for me, because you took the time to get the hair right. You took the time to get my small ass ears right. You took the time to get, like, and I think with you, it was also special because you chose the image that you felt represented me. And I know we talked about that because I have a lot of imagery that span from very serious to very funny or laughing, and then some kind of in between. And and
This is what I said
yeah.
to you, wasn't it? I said, I remember asking for a reference shot, and you sent me some amazing pictures, and there was one where you're smiling, and that's kind of how I kind of see you. But then I found this other shot. I totally ignored what you gave me. Um, and and I saw this image, and I was just like, that's the image. I can't. I could explain it, probably not very well, but there was something. A lot of the time when I draw pictures or they're from references, it's the image that calls to me. It's what's not said, because obviously a picture can't talk. It can, but and it just seems so still and so serene and calm and yeah, very, yeah, just at peace and just that comfort. And that's how I felt, that's what you kind of embody, that kind of calm. And I mean, obviously there's a completely different side to you too, but just to see that kind of, that calmness and that stillness and knowing who you are, all within that photo, just nicely rested, not a live wire, or like not completely not interfered with, just as you were. And that's why I chose that
Serene.
photo. Yeah, serene, that's the word. Yeah, but yeah, and then I had to start drawing the hair, and I didn't feel serene at that point.
But I mean, it goes back to what you were saying before about not being good at hair, and then you got good at doing hair, and then not being good at
Mm,
hands, and you got good at doing hands. And that's what I love about your process, is that
yeah,
sort of like, it's like what I do in my work as well. If I don't know something, it's not that I need to become a master at it, but I want to learn as much about something as I can. This is why we both do what we can to try to get better, and this is what I
yeah,
think we should all be doing in life and in our careers and whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm always striving to learn a different technique, or learn how to do something, because as an artist over those years, I picked up some incredibly bad habits, things that I was doing that I didn't even comprehend that were bad, or just saving time on certain things, and just going back and actually being willing to make those changes, and not be stuck in the, well, this is the way I've done it before, so I'm not going to change because it works for me. But maybe try something that could work for you, and then some. So I changed course in a way, by learning new tricks and new trades, and I'm always ready and willing to sort of, I mean, I do follow a lot of art accounts, looking at other ways that artists work and how they draw, and how a lot of people use the grid format for drawing. I tend to do freehand. Sometimes I will even trace it out, which is, I guess, sometimes for some people a complete no-no, but it saves me time. I'm still drawing the rest of it. I'm still having to put in all the details. But sometimes I don't want to measure somebody's forehead or work out how long the nose is. I mean, obviously, with certain people, when you draw them enough, you start to know exactly the outlines and the way that the face is. Um, but yeah, I'm always wanting to learn and 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 get better. Um, and sometimes, it doesn't work. Sometimes I have to leave portraits and commissions and come back to them. But I think as an artist, it's very important not to be too hard on yourself, because we all get art blocks. We all do. And I think what's really important, and that I've said to many, many people that have sort of got in contact with me, is draw what you want. Don't draw for other people.
Mm.
Draw what you want, what makes you happy, because that's what, it's a cliche to say it, that's what feeds your soul. It's what keeps you going. It's what keeps you motivated. And if you're told, or you feel like you're chastising yourself over your art, then you might as well go off and just do something else, or take a break. Because as soon as you start putting limits on what you think you should be drawing, or how you think you should be drawing, or who you think you should be drawing, you're making a rod for your own back. So I mean, I've probably dropped the ball on many projects, or many movies and TV shows that have come out, and I could have maybe got a lot more followers by doing that work and tagging it within an inch of its life. But would I have had the time? Would I have had the energy? Or even would I have wanted to do it? Not really. So, I draw what I like. I draw when I like.
Yeah.
And I am fortunate to be able to do that. I'm incredibly lucky. So yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah,
And drawing people
this
that
has been
I
fun.
that I know and that I care about, that's even more so for me, because you know it's not just a gift. It's an expression coming from me to you.
Very special,
Yeah.
very special, and much appreciated. I know the amount of love and care you put into your work, and it makes my heart very full that you would even consider doing an image for me, and I think for
You
anybody listening up to this point, thank you for continuing to listen up to this point. But I think there's a lot of takeaways from our conversation, and we'll probably have more
mm,
because I think our friendship has just gotten started, and I think we're going to be being able to do a lot more. But what would you say to either the person who's looking to work with you, or the person who's looking up to you that maybe wants to get into the things that you're getting into, or maybe the person who's just not quite motivated from switching their jobs to diving full time into doing what you do? Like, what message would you give?
be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. And I know that's a very general thing to say, but give yourself time. Don't rush ahead. Yes, when you start on social media, it's all exciting, and it's like entering the playground and meeting lots of new friends. It's fabulous. It's exciting, but don't let it be the be all and end all of your day, of your
Mm-hmm.
journey, of your life. I think it's important to have that balance, um, in everything. And you've taught me this. I mean, part of our friendship is just having your houses in a row. Uh, I can't create great art if everything else is chaos.
Well
I
said.
can't. Um, if I'm calm, if I'm at ease, if I'm comfortable, I can do my work. I know there are artists that thrive on that chaos. That's how they work. But for me, my my time of life, um, it's important to know what you want to do. I think if you're setting out to do this as a business, you need to have an idea of what you want to do and where you want to go. I spent many months creating like mind maps. I don't know if you're familiar with these.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, creating mind maps. And every sort of few months I go back, I look, and they change. You know,
Maybe explain it a little bit for those who don't know.
I mean, basically, you just draw a piece of paper, and it's like writing your ideas, how you want your work to flow. So for Lisa Zaman Art, I would have a bubble for social media. I would have a bubble for the suggestion of creating a website and what's that website going to do, and everything would basically be very cyclical. Everything would link up. You know, a nice kind of fluid flow, a fluid flow chart of where I could
Or
see
Venn
my work
diagram.
going. A Venn diagram. Oh my goodness, we're
Right.
going back to school here.
Yeah.
Um, because sometimes I think when people want to create it as a business, you writing a business plan is daunting, and that leads to self sabotage. Because if you go in all business and you don't lead with a little bit of heart, then you're not doing it for anything else but just getting yourself out there and making money. And being an artist is not it's, it doesn't pay great, and you have to really work at it really hard. And I could have given up. I could have been really relentless, just not cared enough. But I figure that for those that want to start out, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask others for help.
Mm.
Getting in touch with other artists, getting in touch with other people, get people's opinions. It's important. You don't have to take their advice, but also always listen, take on board other people's opinions, what they think, because sometimes when you're so one tracked minded as to what you want to do, you can get a little tunnel vision. Uh, and I think for me, I was very controlling at the beginning. I wanted to do this. I wanted to draw like that. I was going to just go ahead, and then I was like, no, I need to have a website because I can't rely on social media all the time. I need to have a place that is basically my resume. And then looking at a website and thinking, well, do I want it to look like a gallery, or do I want it to set it up so that people can get an idea of what my art would look like on their walls? Because at the end of the day, that's what I want people to do. I want people to have my art on their walls. So it's just giving yourself a lot of time to just not rush ahead. Because it's just, I mean, I know we all hear that clock ticking in our heads, and we've just got to rush. You know, sometimes we make a few mistakes along the way, but you know, take your time. Uh, yeah, get get to know people, to talk to other artists. That's how I formed a really good little community of other artists. On my page, I like to support other artists that I know, other artists that I admire. You know, we've got people that, you know, I don't tend to look at the numbers of followers anymore. I was obsessed right at the beginning when I was starting out, but you know, I've got pages that I follow that have got maybe 200-300 people, and their artwork is astounding. It's amazing. And you know, and they're all sad because nobody's following them, or the algorithm's not great. And I'm like, just stick with it. If you're happy
Yeah.
to do so, and you're happy to produce the work, keep going, because at the end of the day, you never know. You just never know. And I think
Right.
you just got to take that chance. And that comes back to my New York trip, taking that chance, just doing it, having that, not looking the gift horse in the mouth, just accepting that sometimes good things do happen. And I think
Right.
that positive state of mind does create a very fertile ground where positive things happen. Because maybe I used to be an incredibly pessimistic person. And I've turned that round 180 to just thinking, good things are going to happen to me. I don't
Right.
know when, I don't know where. I might not necessarily seek them out, but I'm not going to wait for them either. I'll just keep going. And when the vibe is good, I'm going to do it.
One of the reasons why I asked that specific question is for obviously for the bulk of the people listening or watching this, but in particular, my brother Mario Holland. Shout out to Mario Hootie. He has been dabbling into photography for several
Mm-hmm.
years now, and
Nope.
I have to say, like, he's getting very good. I mean, his photography is very good, and
Mm.
and it's one of those things where he's nailed a few of the things that you mentioned, which is one being uh, seek the advice of people who are doing this as a profession already. He does that. Being sort of validated by other people. We lost Lisa's video somehow. Let's see, she'll be back on any moment. There we go. And
I didn't touch anything.
she's back. She's back. No worries. No worries. All good. All good. So I'll be able to just clip this part out. But what I was saying was,
Your
my
brother.
brother has gotten to the point where his photography is really good. He's reached out to various professionals in his field. They have validated his work, and he started very slow and was doing it, and has been doing it so far just out of the love of being able to do what he does. He's aspired to making a business out of it, but he just hasn't crossed over. And I think I could be totally wrong, but I think sometimes it's a bit scary to then, like, for a long period of time, give up this information or this content, this art for free, but then to all of a sudden ask people to pay money for it. And people are willing to, right? But my brother set out to do this because it was a passion of his, right? And
Yeah,
here I
same here.
am.
Same here.
I'm
Same here.
I'm the
Yeah.
entrepreneur, right? I'm the entrepreneur. He
Oh
is as well.
yeah.
But like
Yes, you
the
are.
entrepreneur in me is like, okay, but I get it. And if that's totally the case, no problem. At the same time, I also know that what he's doing costs money. It costs time. He's unable to, it's like
Material for me. Yeah, materials.
it's right. So, like, at what point do you go, all right, enough's enough? And then how do you value that? And what value do you create from that? And then it's honestly as valuable as people are willing to spend on it if it's
Mm.
not done just for the craft, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, I'm going to be going home in the next few days, and in 3 days time I'll be going home, and I'll be there with my brother. And last time I was home, I'll be there with my family as well, but specifically my brother. I usually stay with him when I go home. The last time I was home, he did some photos for me. He did a few photos for my podcast when I was interviewing Carlos Condit, the UFC
Mm-hmm.
fighter, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and my brother's photography is amazing, and he's done photos of my son when we were there, and I can't wait to get the family back there so he can do more family
Mm.
photos and things like that. The thing is like I think it's easy to take advantage of someone who's willing to put all of this content out there for free. Like, at what point do you turn it into a business? So I want to encourage people like him to kind of take that step.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because I mean, I have and even for me, still, until like maybe a few months back, my friends and family were like, "You are charging not enough for your work." I think it was my it was my hairdresser was like, "What? So how much work per hour how many hours are you doing?" And when I broke it down, I was like, "Oh my God, you're right. Like per hour, this is peanuts. This is ridiculous. I'm upping my money." Um, uh, and then you see others and then I see other people's work, and I'm like, "Oh my God, why are you charging? Don't charge more for it." And I can see that the same artists are having the same thing. Go, yeah, well, I don't think people are going to buy it. And you're like, at some point, somebody is going to go, yeah,
Right.
that price that you want, yeah. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And obviously I suppose my age, not necessarily so many people are using social media, or maybe I'm just fortunate enough to have decided to have that career change and be able to change my fortune. Obviously, there are a lot of young people out there. People need jobs, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's finding that balance. And if you can draw, and that's what you really really want to do, you will make it work. That doesn't necessarily mean that you will burn out and that you will just be just sacrificing every minute to either working a 9 to 5 job and then coming home and doing the drawing. But at some point, it will click that you need to pursue it,
Yeah.
and that's what you want to do. Because for some people, having it as a hobby, for me, for many years, having it as a hobby was, I was happy with that. That was it. But now the art that allows me to 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 not only feed that creative part of me that just loves to be tactile and using my hands and making things. I've always made things, like from, I think there's, yeah, I mean, I'll show you this example. I mean, I don't just make art, I make, oh dear me, other things as well. I mean, this is, you know, this is really random, but
Oh,
this is
cool.
something that was made, but this was literally completely handmade.
So
So,
everyone that's listening only, Lisa's holding up it looks like a
a
masquerade
Venetian
mask.
mask,
Yeah,
masquerade
like a
mask, yeah,
yeah, Venetian mask,
all
masquerade mask, and
beaded.
it's beautiful.
So, you know, all the kind of things, anything that I can get my hands on and make and glue and stick, and so always got to use my hands in some way. But yeah,
Go
it's
for
one
it.
of those things. I think you've just got to, yeah. It's really hard to say at that moment just to go for it, but you'll know. And if you feel like, you know what, what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That is the new motto. What's the worst that could happen? Um, because I sometimes think we do overthink, and that again, going back to that fear, that we let fear control us to the point where we just cripple ourselves into just playing safe.
Well, check
And
this out. I'm sorry to interject, but I love the phrase you said. What's the worst that can happen? That's very daunting for some people. But how about this? How about this? What's the best that can happen? And how daunting is that for
exactly.
some people?
And look, a year ago, I wouldn't have even imagined that I would have a gallery exhibit in the new year. I wouldn't have even thought that I would have been traveling to New York, or making my very first creative brief, and actually like having a shop on my own website and having my own, making my own creative decisions and actually feeling like I'm doing something worthwhile. And actually, you know what? Not just that, but being good at it.
Yeah.
Because we can trundle along and think to ourselves, oh well, what am I good at? What can I do? You know, right now, this is where it is, and I'm grateful. I am seriously grateful to everybody who supported me, giving me kind words. And yeah, I mean, friends and family have been absolutely instrumental in getting me where I am. They've bolstered me. But sometimes people don't have friends and family, and those people on social media, we're the artists. We're not a bad bunch. We can help you out, and I think that's always a good thing to remember. Like you said with your brother, it's always good to ask for an opinion. It's good to ask for help
Right.
sometimes, because we
Right.
can't always do it ourselves. And I'm going to stop
Well,
there before I just go off in another rabbit hole.
no, it's all good. I think one of the important takeaways from what we just discussed, and then we'll move on to the last two
Mm,
questions of the show. But I think that important takeaway there would be just to understand how transformative and how important it is to understand that we may be crippled by the thought of what if I fail, and it may be just as crippling to imagine the thought of what if I truly succeed. And when you
Because that
understand the
can be
balance,
equally terrifying.
right, when you understand the balance of that, those two situations, when you can fully harness the outcome of both of those situations, I think that's when a person really truly goes, okay, you know what, let's push forward. And so if you don't ask yourself those questions, if you don't ask yourself, if you don't present those options, if you don't present those opportunities, then what are you doing? Really, right? So
I mean,
yeah.
a lot of people can sort of just get through life, just sort of maybe burying their head in sand, just kind of going with the flow and just not making, too many ripples in the sand, and just anything maybe for an easy life, or, because obviously there are people whose characters are like that, and that's nothing wrong with that if that's what allows them to continue on their daily lives. Some others, I always figure if you're not happy and you're not satisfied with your lot, you have the ability to change it, and nobody else does. And I think these days everybody is too quick to blame everybody else and everything else on their own woes. And it's time sometimes, especially and within this pandemic, it was time for reflection. We could blame everybody else for the pandemic, but while we're here, what are you going to do about it? How are we going to deal? What are you going to do? And I'm not talking about the pandemic here. I'm talking about our lives. What can I do? What should I be doing? It's good to ask, and I think it's good to ask yourself those questions every now and then. Keep yourself in check. See how you're doing, mentally, physically. I don't think we're so busy living our lives at such a fast pace that we don't appreciate what we have, what we could have, and what maybe that we've lost. And I think and now especially more than ever is with times that are changing, especially with lockdowns, and families not being able to see one another, families that have lost other family members. I think now is a time to just think to yourselves, we get one life, and we should live it to its fullest. And I'm not talking partying hard here. I'm not talking living life to the excess, but living your life and just allowing yourself to enjoy it and not be terrified by it. Because, like I say, it's that what's the worst could happen, what's the best that could happen. It's just allowing yourself to just keep seeing where it takes you. And I know that
Well said.
that's so easy to say now. A year on, probably crying and maybe eating some ice cream at this time last year, as we went into lockdown again. But a lot can happen in a year, and yeah, a lot can happen in a year, and I suppose I am a good example of that.
Well said. Okay, moving on, and I promise for those that are listening and watching, we are going to start to wrap this up because I know it's getting long.
We need to
But
shut up. I need
one
to
of the
shut up.
no, it's great to have people that actually know how to talk on a show.
Okay.
So I think you probably already know what's coming because you've listened to the show many times, I think. So I always like to ask two questions when I have guests onto the show, and it's something I've done every single episode, and it's just another way to kind of to allow me to understand you better, and also for the listeners to be able to understand you better. So the first question is, what are your top two pet peeves? One we kind of discussed, and that's this idea of you being a fan artist.
No, you know what? Pet peeves. I'm just trying to be as concise as possible. Uh, Snobbery is a pet peeve. Oh no, self entitlement. That's my top pet peeve.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, self entitlement. Um, it seems to breed a lot these days, and it's for me it's a worry. Um, I like to start a blank page with everybody, no matter who you are and where you come from. Uh, I could know everything about you, or I could know nothing about you. But from that moment that we meet, from the moment that the first words come out of your mouth, self entitlement is a gripe. It's
Mm,
something that really irks me because yeah, self
okay.
entitlement. Um,
What's another one? That's because that's a great one.
um,
That's a great one.
Another pet peeve. Um, oh God, sorry, Joshua, you got me here.
No, it's okay.
I'm pretty. The thing is, I'm pretty easygoing, so not a lot really rattles me apart from people that eat really loudly.
That's me. I'm the same. Yay, we
What
got
you
another
eat?
one.
You eat really loudly.
No, no, no,
Um,
no. It's my pet peeve. I I think if you go back to the very first episode on this show 4 years ago, when I was interviewed, which we should probably do that again at some point. But like, my when asked that question, my number one pet peeve, not my number one, but one of my top pet peeves is loud chewing, loud eating, because for me, it it it's not just the surface of loud chewing, but it's kind of like this I guess I feel like there's this what is the word I'm looking for, like carelessness, right? Because like are you chewing so much that you could care less of like what you sound like, and you don't hear it. Like I also think it's like this ancestral idea of that you're a mouth breather as well, right? So like if you chew with your mouth closed, chances are you're breathing through your nose, and we know how much I talk about breathing properly and things like that. But there's so many layers to why I think loud chewing is such a pet peeve of mine. But maybe you could explain yours, or how
I
that
just,
comes about.
I just have a sensitivity to just noise. I don't know.
Me
There's
too.
probably other things that there's other things that no, I know what my pet peeve is. I know what my pet peeve is. People that spit in public. That's my
Oh.
biggest. It makes me feel quite um yeah, people that like just it goes along with the way like people that spit in public and people that sniff a lot and don't blow their nose. It's all oral, isn't it? It's all oral. It's
Yeah.
that kind of thing that I just think maybe it's that British decorum of like, would you like a tissue? Would you?
Right. Right. Oh, I love it.
Um,
This is getting
I'm
into
pretty.
some very
could
interesting
you
discussions.
could you not chew so loudly, please?
It's a tough one. And if you've ever said that to someone, can you imagine the type of? I mean, anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because it's
Let's not go
another
to.
long rabbit hole. We could go down there forever. But those are very good. Like you gave me three, I think 3 or 4 good ones. So
Sorry.
thank you
Of
for
course I
that. No,
did.
it's
Of
good.
course I
It's
did. I
good.
didn't just give you two. I'd give you like four or five.
That's all good. Now, the most beautiful part of these questions is the question I like to ask to wrap up, to finish on a positive note, and then of course we'll allow you to rattle off how people can follow you. But what is something you're most grateful for? And you did mention something
Um,
earlier about family and support and things like that. But what else comes to mind?
what am I most grateful for? People. This sounds maybe this sounds crazy. People's support, those that are around me, how supportive people have been. I think that can be so underestimated at times, and sometimes I don't get the chance to say thank you to everybody. But the support for me, be it online. be it family, be it friends, be it complete strangers, saying, you know what, you're doing a great job. You know what, you're doing good, and it's not unnecessarily a validation, and I'm certainly not seeking it. But and I'm the last to suffer from imposter syndrome. You haven't guessed. But sometimes just having that support, having family and friends say, you know what, you can do this, you got this, you're doing a great job, and allowing me to do what I love, because they know how much I love it. That is priceless. That is priceless, because that allows me to truly be the person that I am, and that I feel most genuine and most comfortable as. Because talking to you now, all stripped down, this is me, and I feel like maybe the first time in my many years of life, what you see is what you get, and through that support and through that love, that's enabled me to be able to give people 100%. And when I say 100%, I don't mean all of me, everything, but what you see, that's me. I don't change for people. I don't feel like I need to be unwavering or change for people. Of course, I will bend and I will be flexible for others, but through that support and love online, through friends, through family, that's what's most important, I think, is just yeah.
Thank you for that. That very well said, very beautiful. And I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for you opening up and showing your authentic you on the show. I'm thankful for those who have listened, and hopefully all of you are able to take away from this, like we both have, And before we fully wrap up, can you let people know the best ways to follow you, to follow your work, to even ask for custom made art and commissions and things like that? Like, what are the best ways to follow you?
I am pretty much on most social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find me as Lisa Zamen Art. You can Google search. You will find me. I will be at the top of the list. But if you just put in Lisa Zaman Art, it doesn't matter if it's all one word or if it's separated. You can find me on those platforms. And as you mentioned earlier, I have a website, lisazamenart.com. Again, you'll find everything that you need to know about me and about my work and about my process there. But yeah, don't be frightened. I do respond to DMs unless they're of a certain tone. Maybe I might answer them actually. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Very cool. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, for just allowing for this amazing opportunity, this space. It's been amazing. I look forward to much more amazing art. Good luck with the gallery event.
Thank
Good luck
you.
with getting into the next marathon. And so all the listeners, thank you. This is Simply Walk the Talk, and I am out. Peace.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seatbelts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen. Better come give us a minute or two. Open the box up, we giving you tools. Giving your engine the fuel that it needs. Breathing into it, it's autoimmune. Make a connection, we're stronger in two. Making us one of a kind of a few. Work on the mind, but show me your moves. If you do what you say, you know what to do. Yeah. Simply walk the